I remember going into basic training, and in basic training, one of the first things they do is they take all the clothes that you are wearing away from you. You have to pack them up in a bag or a box, and they put them off somewhere else so you don't have access to them. And sometimes part of that process is they will mock the things that you've had in your pocket or the things that you carry around. If you carry around pictures of friends or girlfriends or boyfriends or pets or anything like that. Or one guy showed up to basic training with condoms still in his wallet, and they really gave him a hard time about that. They're like, I don't know how you plan to use that over the next 30 days, but that's a really bad idea, because no, nobody here is going to expect you to be using that, and you better not be. They also, though, take you through a process where they completely shave your head. They make you put on clothes that are identical to each other. I mean, aside from the size of your underwear, you're issued underwear, you're issued socks, you're issued undershirts and pants and shoes and boots, and all of that stuff comes pretty much the same as everybody else's. It all looks the same. And there's one purpose for it. It's to break down the individual identity and instill the concept of teamwork. And whether it's on the training ground of the physical agility test and the preparation for that, or it's PT, or it's classroom learning, everyone is taught the same thing at the same pace for the same period of time. And either you participate in that and you keep up with that and you learn that and you become like that to be similar to everyone else in your group, or you're out of there. It's not complicated stuff. I do remember our drill instructors. We had 2 female drill instructors. And one of the drill instructors said, listen, you're going to do what we tell you to do, and you're going to do what everybody else does, or you can go home. So if you ever feel like you've reached the point where you just can't take it anymore, just tell me. Just tell me. And here's all you got to say. You just step up, stand at attention, salute me like I deserve, and then you say these words: I refuse to train. Because if you refuse to train, you're out of here. We got no use for you. So if you ever feel like you're at the breaking point, you just can't do this anymore, you just step up, give us a salute, and tell us, I refuse to train. Well, in the course of my basic training, I think one guy did that, and it was about day 11. He didn't even make it 30% of the way through. And he threw his hand up, and he saluted, and he said, I refuse to train. Now, honestly, anybody who's been through Marine Corps basic training or BUDS training or anything like that, to look at a guy who can't make it 30% of the way through Air Force basic training, which is the military equivalent of kindergarten, they would simply laugh at him. And I don't know what kind of home life he had before he got there. Remember, this has been more than 25 years ago, so it's not now like it was then. But even then, it was pretty patty cake kind of stuff for basic training. It was intense as you were going through it, but I look back on it now and realize I'm almost 50 and I could still probably make it through it. I have a visitor. Quiet on the set. No, it doesn't work in an environment like this. Can you see it? But when you go through basic training, you've got to conform to the training method that they've already put you through. They have a plan. They have an agenda. They know how you're supposed to come out on the other side. Don't move it, buddy. Don't move it. When you go through any other kind of training, the same thing is true. The expectation of your trainers, whether they're business coaches or business mentors, or they're individuals who just say, hey, I want to pour into you for discipleship or whatever other purpose. Hey, Eli, don't touch it, please. Thank you, Odie. That training agenda is often about an outcome they desire for you. It's what they expect to see of you on the other side. And as close to an altruistic method as you can expect, with real good, solid intentions, their end game is about making you a better you, or making you fit into the agenda of whatever training purpose they have for you. Maybe that training purpose is about basic training and it's about following that agenda, or maybe it's about becoming a physician, or maybe it's about becoming a firefighter or an EMT. And each of those training methodologies has an end game. It has a goal. It has a purpose. And there's nothing wrong with that purpose, as long as you understand that that's what the purpose is. And there are a lot of people, too, whose training methodology and end game isn't about you at all. It's about money. I'll give you a good example. If you watch out there on Facebook, on YouTube, on just about any training method platform, and many of them are not intended to be training platforms, but we use them that way because they're very good for communication. But many people will offer you a training program for $5,000, $10,000. And in all honesty, if you attend that program, you got a 50-50 chance that you're going to walk away with $10,000 or $15,000 worth of really good knowledge. I mean, if you go to the, Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey, you're probably going to get some business sense you haven't heard anywhere else, not even in business school. There are guys with MBAs who have gone to the Entree Leadership are going, why didn't I learn that in college? I've been in business for 15 years. He's teaching stuff I've never heard before about finance, about leadership, about training, about hiring your team members, about how do you incent your team members, about onboarding references and referral fees. Because birds of a feather flock together. I mean, some really good, intense training. Grant Cardone is another one. I don't agree with all of his methodologies, and I don't always appreciate the language he uses. Kind of like Gary Vee. They're just kind of very loose with what they say. But I guess they have a right to be. They've proven success, financial success, business success, training success, development success. And so if that's what you're pursuing, they're going to get you there. The other 50%, unfortunately, their only game is to sell you what they're already doing. And it kind of sounds like this. Let me show you how to make the next six-figure webinar. Okay, do you know how they made a six-figure webinar? By convincing other people that it's possible to make a six-figure webinar. And what are they going to sell you? How to make a six-figure webinar. And when you've got their formula for a six-figure webinar, what do you think the formula contains? How to make a six-figure webinar. Your training material, your content may or may not fit that cookie cutter formula. I'm not saying the formula doesn't work, but if you're selling cookies and candies on the street corner, it's a whole lot easier to move cookies and candies than it is asparagus and broccoli. I mean, have you ever seen a vegetable sale in place of a bake sale as a fundraiser at your church or school? It's probably not going to happen. Why? Because the audience buys what the audience wants. And if you want guaranteed profits, sell what the audience wants. Here's the question, though. Is your training being given to you to make you a better person, to make you a greater success, or because it's easier to sell candy than it is to sell broccoli? Which means that really the product is only tailored to the purpose of profit. You follow me? It's really easy to gain agreement if I sit down with my grandchildren and say, hey, let's have some Halloween candy, than it is if I sit down with my grandchildren and I say, hey, let's have some vegetables. It's a much easier sell to sell candy than it is vegetables. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you understand that the agenda behind it is the sale, not the benefit of the audience. The agenda behind the training of basic training is to make you all like one, to make you move and think and act and behave and respond the same way. It was the same thing when I went from basic training to firefighter training. Everybody receives the same kind of training at the same pace, learning the same things until they're like each other. Now, when you get into the fire department, there's various places you can go. Some become fire inspectors, some become specialists at rescue, some focus on EMT and paramedic training, some focus on management to become a chief. Some want to go beyond that and become a fire academy instructor. And all of those are possibilities, but you don't get into that world without the uniformity training that makes you like everybody else in that arena. So you might be thinking, well, what causes you to even think about this topic or this idea right now? Two words I want you to think about. If you don't know what these words mean, YouTube. YouTube them together in quotes so that your Google search, your Boolean logic, will give you these two words as a combined phrase, not two individual words, because individually they're harmless. They mean nothing. But together they have history. They have history that goes way, way, way back. And if you think of the agenda, you'll see that it has popped itself up in different ways over the centuries. Now, let me give you the phrase, and then I'm going to tie it to a training methodology that you may have never pondered being related. So the phrase is brown shirts. There were also the Hitler Youth. They were very much related, and by that I simply mean that they were sold out to an agenda, they were trained, they were educated for a specific purpose to be like each other, kind of like our basic training, our military basic training, or our career vocational training, where everybody is trained to the same standard to learn the same thing at the same pace in the same way and get the same results of duplicated people rather than individualistic ideologies. So Hitler Youth and brown shirts, both very similar. But, you know, you can go back, probably, was it about 1,700 years before Christ? I'd have to look at my timeline. Those of you who have better history of the ancient world, please chime in here. But there was a king by the name of Nebuchadnezzar who took some Hebrew slaves, and he realized that these guys came from good stock. They were intelligent guys, they were healthy guys, they were strong guys. Nebuchadnezzar may have looked at them like Hitler's youth. And so he brought them into his palace, and he said, listen, I want these guys to be trained like my royal court, like my royal guard. I want these Hebrew boys, because if I'm mistaken, let me know, but there's kind of an undertone there that said something along the lines of, I want to know if these Hebrew boys even have what it takes. I mean, they're considered among the brightest, among the healthiest, among the strongest, among the most intelligent of their group, but are they even as good as our Babylonians? Are they even as good as our regular citizens? Are their best even able to measure up to us? So he put them in proximity of his royal guard, of the guys in his temple. He said, I just want to see, can they cut it? And after a couple of days, Daniel came back and said, listen, we have a specific diet, and what your guys are eating is going to kill them. So let us eat our food, because that's part of the secret to our health, our vibrancy, our strength, our quick minds. It's our diet. And the king was like, really? Okay, so what you're telling me is that my training methods, my diet, my way of doing this isn't going to cut it? That you're somehow superior to that? All right, we'll see. So they gave him some time to live by their methodologies, and they did. And at the end of that testing period, they came back and he went, all right, I'm convinced Daniel's way is a better way than our way, and so we're going to stop doing it this way. We're going to do it Daniel's way. And the king became a huge fan of Daniel. And Daniel's way of doing things began to seep into the whole culture and society. But there were those among the brown shirts of Nebuchadnezzar who said, no. See, they're overrunning our culture. We need to re-indoctrinate them. They're not worshiping the king like everyone else does. They're worshiping their own God. That's what's making them powerful, not their diet, not the way they live. It's that fact that Daniel prays 3 times a day. That's the problem. So if they're going to pray, they need to stop praying to God, and they need to worship Nebuchadnezzar. They need to bow down to you. And the king was like, yeah, I don't know that that's it, but he eventually went along with it and ended up throwing him in the furnace. There's not a whole lot different between the indoctrination that was forced on Daniel and his friends than the Hitler Youth, than the watchover of the brown shirts, than basic training. See, it's not just training, it's called indoctrination. It has an agenda that goes way beyond what's in it for me. When I take training, when I sit under a leader of any level, I mean, I went to a class recently. If you're on LinkedIn, you may know the name Terry Sullivan. He teaches a really good class on LinkedIn. He does a lot of consulting in the arena and has helped a lot of people boost their LinkedIn profile. Just as a little plug for Terry right here, I went from, on Tuesday night when I went to the class, I updated my profile, made some changes to it, and within 24 hours showed a 208% increase in the number of people who viewed my profile on LinkedIn, just from the change that I made. Now, I submitted those changes to several people in my circle and said, what do you think of these? And everybody had a different opinion about them. Some sent me back long diatribes of, well, this is the training that I received, blah, 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 blah. But in 48 hours, in less than 48 hours, I had a 208% increase on the views on my profile. And I consider that the evidence that the training and the things that I followed are productive. They may not agree with everybody. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, so to speak, but that training methodology and following those principles made a difference in the impact that I was looking for. Now, I'm not saying there's not more that I could do. Probably is more that I could do. But that so far has made a dent. It's made a difference. That's why I seek training. I want to know that what I'm being taught is going to move the needle for me. What's in it for me? Now, that doesn't mean I'm not willing to pay. Of course I'm willing to pay. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars getting good training. But I have a pretty sharp mind, and I'm a natural researcher already. So if you're going to come to teach and train me, you better come with your A game. And I'm going to be asking the question all along, is this person teaching me because it generates profit for them, or are they teaching me because they know something I don't know and it's going to make me a better person? And that sometimes seems like splitting hairs. Recently in the news, though, I believe it was the state of New York, made the public declaration that a 4-year degree will be free. Free college. You know the old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch? Anytime someone offers you something that costs them money, there's an agenda. And I don't know any liberal professors who are willing to show up at school and teach for free. I don't know any professors who will give up the majority of their time to study, to research, to grade papers, to do the organization necessary to run a class, who are willing to give up the income of their life to do that for free. I don't know of any facility the size of a college campus willing to open their doors and turn on their lights for free. In fact, most churches who are nonprofit organizations with the purpose of reaching the public and changing the community, they close their doors during the week and they turn the lights off because it's expensive to have a building open with water running and lights on and air conditioning on all the time. So for a college to say, we're going to offer a full 4-year course for free, there's a bait and switch going on there somewhere. Part of it may be that they're already funded by your tax dollars. So what you think is free is actually coming out of that required health care plan that you're paying for, or that increased taxation. Or you may notice very soon, if you're a college-age student, that that little paycheck you've been getting from your part-time job, the paycheck stays the same, but what you get to take home goes down. I'm just saying, nobody gives away what is now priced in the $100,000 or more price range with no strings attached. But do you know how much it cost to be a part of Hitler's Youth? Nothing. Nothing. You know what it costs to go to basic training? Nothing. Not a penny. And if you're a military soldier and they're training you for a specific task on the battlefield, do you know what they charge you for training? Nothing. But do you know how you get out of that training if you decide you don't want to do it anymore? It's called a court-martial. It's called a dishonorable discharge. It's called AWOL. Because see, when they start investing that kind of training in you, and they want you to be conformed like everybody else, to walk in step with the rest of the team in unity, that free training they've been giving you is going to cost you something. And they own you. Most people don't know what GI means. I've heard people say it means anything from general idiot to going insane. The phrase actually means, and it applies to all soldiers, it means government issue. I know this because it was threatened to me. I rode my motorcycle when I was in the Air Force. I rode it for a long period of time without a shirt on. I had my helmet on, but I didn't have a shirt on. And I got a really bad sunburn. I mean, a really bad sunburn. And when I came back to work and I told the chief I have a sunburn, he said, I don't know if you understand this or not, but being a soldier means you're required to do your job. And anything you've done to prevent you from being able to do your job is a dereliction of duty, and it's destruction of government property, because until your enlistment is up, the Air Force owns you. For you to impair your ability to do your job is a violation of your contract. So, if your sunburn is so bad that you can't put on an air pack, then you're probably going to get court-martialed. That sunburn hurt, but I put on that air pack. And he tested that theory. We had 3 drills that week before that sunburn went away. And I had that air pack on, and I crawled around on the ground, and I carried heavy equipment, and I threw ladders over my shoulder, and I drug hose over my shoulder with an air pack on, and a sunburn so deep I had blisters. He wanted to test that commitment. But all that training wasn't entirely free, was it? If you're going to get free training, there's always an agenda in it. I'll tell you what my agenda is for all this free training that I've done on Facebook and on YouTube and on LinkedIn and on my podcasts. I have a purpose in being here. Equip the saints for the work of the kingdom. That's the work I'm told to do. That's my obligation. And so there is some altruistic ideology behind what I do, that I'm giving this training, and I know that it benefits in 2 ways. In one way, it is the benefit of my obedience, because I believe I'm called by God to provide this level of training at no charge to whoever wants it. But you might want to ask my coaching clients what level this is compared to what they get at the paid level. And I have some of those people who are kind of on the bridge. They watch this program on a regular basis, and they want to pick my brain and get some answers and get some questions. And I'll tell them, you're welcome to bring a pen and a piece of paper, but you're not allowed to audio record anything that I'm telling you until you're under a paid contract. And just this last week, I ran into one of those clients who's been she's been to several engagements where I've spoke. She's been to some training classes. She's picked my brain for some free answers, and I give them mostly for free with no strings attached. But it is how I pay my light bill, and how I pay my mortgage, and how I feed my family, and that's what God's given me as a vocation, is the influence of teaching and training and leadership, and I travel all over the world to do it. I can't afford financially to just give it away at the highest level. But the same kind of stuff that Verizon paid me close to 6 figures for what's inside my mind, for the stuff that I've researched, that I've trained, it's available if you want it, but it's not free. And so those who have been in that transition, they're kind of asking the question, do I want to pay or do I not? Am I good with just what I get for free? I had one just this last week who said to me, every time I sit down with you, I feel like my brain is about to explode. You've given me so much information, I can't act on any of it. And I kind of laughed at her and I said, do you know that's on purpose? She said, what do you mean it's on purpose? I said, look, if I give you enough action to act on, you'll go act on it, and I won't get paid for it. And the next time you're going to come to me expecting that I'll give you just enough information to act on, and you'll go act on it, and you'll reap the benefits of it, and I won't get paid for it. And scripturally speaking, that's pearl before swine. because you're a swine for stealing the information that I've given you and doing something with it. Now, what I'm giving you in this free training, the leadership skills that I'm teaching you right here, right now, these are free. I intend these to be free. And I hope, I pray that you will act on them. That you will not be a sucker who will say, well, these guys are giving away this free course for no reason. Well, ask the question, why is it free? I'm very clear. My job on this earth is to equip the saints for the work of the kingdom. If you're watching this and you're a saint and you're working in the kingdom, then my challenge for you for this training today is to ask the question, if somebody else is giving you free training, why are they giving it? What is it that they expect on the backside? Is it that will lead to another sale? Well, sure. Eventually, I hope that maybe you'll become a paid client, but I only have time for so many. So if you're going to become a paid coaching client, it's not going to be cheap and it's not going to be free. If you want free, stay right here. If you want more than this, more personalized communication training, more personalized leadership training, more investigation into your marketing plan, your vision for your business, your ongoing business plan. Listen, I've written budgets for $13 to $65 million to launch newspapers, to launch radio stations, to launch television networks. I've worked at those various levels. I just don't give that stuff away for free. If you want it, you can pay for it. If you don't want it, that's fair. Go find it somewhere else. I also have paid coaching clients who they want to pay me the minuscule budget, but then they see someone else who offers something kind of the same for $4,000 or $5,000, and they scrape all their money together and they go pay the $4,000 or $5,000 and come back to me and they're like, you know, what I paid you a little bit for was better than what I paid them $5,000 for. And I'm like, imagine what you could get from me if you were willing to spend the $5,000 with me. Imagine how much deeper we would go, how much more you would know. You get what you pay for. And a free university, it has an agenda. It has an agenda. Whether it's to get themselves paid through your tax dollars, to funnel it right out of your paycheck before you can get your paycheck, or it's to obligate you. You see, there's one other path that you can go when going into the military, almost all branches. Ask a recruiter. They know better than I do. But in the Air Force, for an example, it's called bootstrap. Someone who has the academic grades and the academic desire to go to college, but they've already enlisted, they can serve 2 years, get out, go to college, become a commissioned officer, and commit themselves for another 6 years. In the end, you're going to do 8 to 12 years to get your free college. If 8 to 12 years of your life is a good exchange for 4 years of education, rock on, baby. That's a good way to do it and take no money out of your pocket and not have no student loan debt when you're done. But if you're not willing to spend 12 years in the military, don't sign up for that program. Because you owe them that time of your life to pay for that. If you're signing up for free college, don't be a sucker. They want something from you. At very least, you're going to learn to walk in lockstep like everybody else. I'm going to bet that within free college there are required courses. And those required courses are going to teach you to think like they think. Hitler Youth, Nebuchadnezzar's Royal Court, brown shirts. I'm just saying. If it comes to you for free, you better judge the method and the means behind it. What is their agenda?